the band split up for reasons that we can't go into, but after history, what happened was we put the single out. Every member of the band was told about what was going to happen, and we all went into a period of mourning. And I went off on holiday, and I've said before, I heard history on the radio a couple of days after we'd split up the band, and I heard it the first time on the radio. It was looking over at the ocean in Cornwall. And that was a moving experience, and basically from then on, like Simon said before, we went on, and I gave them a phone call and said, I'm writing some songs, let's just keep doing something just to fill the time and be creative, you know what I mean? There's no point just stopping dead, because there's no way you can stop dead, you know. That's an impossibility, actually, so the reason things happen is because they had to happen that way. I had to write songs, and we had to go in and be creative and make music, because we don't know how to do anything else. We're terrible at doing anything else, basically.
Never done anything else.
You got to learn empathy for other people, I think, and be able to understand. Basically, got older in that 2-year period. I think I became whatever a man is. I think I definitely made the transition from kind of late teens, early 20s to 25. Been through a lot of shit, I think, experienced a lot of things, and it gave me the mindset to have the hindsight and look back and say, yeah, well, in this situation I might have done that, and I might have done this, and I might have done whatever. But the main feeling for me was to have music, the stage, the shows, the whole feeling when your band is working and doing it and out there, and music being out there. Just how much I actually miss that, do you know what I mean? And how much I needed to do that. That's a few things that I learned out of the experience, I think.
For me personally, no matter how traumatic it was, breaking up and actually recording Northern Soul and touring after that, and I wouldn't change a thing looking back on it. You know, definitely feel older through the experience, and I think without that experience we wouldn't have got back to it. If we'd have just carried on, we wouldn't have ever got that feeling that we've got now, where everyone is totally into what we're doing. We come to a point where it wasn't 100%. We weren't wholehearted about what we were doing, and I think without going through a bit of trauma and without going through what we've been through, we wouldn't have what we've got now, which is special, do you know what I mean? Because we'd lost it. We'd lost something along the way. And being older about it now, we can look back and think we won't let that happen again, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I think the next time, obviously, the band splits up will be the time then the band splits up, and you've got to be realistic and say that there is an end somewhere. But what's going to happen now is the time we have got, and we're really going to use that time, and you know, we're already thinking about our next records. I've got my dictaphone with me, I'm on the next phase of my side of the creativity, and as a band, you know, we're just all thinking about our next steps and how to go into this business and how to come out smelling good, and how to come out with your vision and your ideas being seen, not somebody else's idea of what you should be, you know, which does entail releasing more records than bands have been doing over the last few years. It does mean that the record company's got to keep up with your creativity and your creative output, rather than the other way around. It's getting back to that respect where John Lennon could ring up and, you know, go and record Instant Karma in a night with Phil Spector. It's like, because people knew that something was going to happen, so he's going to have the studio, do you know what I mean? I'm the band's biggest fan. I know what this band should be doing, you know. I mean, that's why I'm seriously contemplating not doing any interviews for a couple of years, just because I think there's a few bands and few musicians who are capable of doing that, or that kind of thing actually means something. And I think I have got things to say, but I have noticed over the last few interviews how these, that journalism is at a very low ebb. and there isn't I haven't got the Hunter S. Thompson or the whatever to interview us, and you know, or Stanley Booth in his prime or whatever, these great writers who had insights into musicians and the way why they make music or whatever. These people have long gone, and I've not seen this generation's set of writers. Maybe they don't write for music press, maybe they write books or whatever. I don't know where they are. So to me, it'd be a good time as well for us to step out of print, because I'm not interested in being involved in some like comic book tabloid journalism, you know, because it's just wasting my time. I could be thinking about other things. And I think, you know, we're one of the few bands who could say, right, no interviews for 2 years, and all our fans would understand, because that they know that give us, you know, they're going to get more records basically, and better records. It's like, seems so simple, but whatever. Well, he's a musician of such like qualities that, you know, when he puts his soul on a piece of music, it just
I mean,
steps up
for this band, I think it's with all of us. If you take one of us away, like, it's not the Verve anymore, and that's basically what happened. Nick left, and it wasn't the Verve, and I don't think we realised how much we were into the Verve until we'd lost it. Do you know what I mean? It was only then that we realised. We always knew it was special, but it really, like, to go in like without Nick and record, and then realise that this whole like spectrum was missing.
It's it's many different colours. You see the band write in different ways, and the band have, you know, strengths in a lot of different areas of music and ways of making it. And when Nick's in the room and we're all together, you know, that's a whole new dimension. It's something that when he's not in the room we cannot do. We cannot touch.
Closes a lot of doors.
Yeah. So it was great when he came back, basically, because all those fantastic doors were open again, and we can go over here again. Check that out. You know what I mean? So, you know, for that reason, it was really exciting and very, very moving when I heard some of his guitars, like on like a song like "The Drugs Don't Work," when he plays his slide on that for the first time. You know, things like that. You can't explain the feeling of knowing that someone's soul is going to touch that piece of music at that point in just the right way, better than you could even imagine, and complement the words and the melody and the song so well. It's like when you hear that.
When you hear it though, when we heard like Nick playing on the songs, like the feeling was, that's what's been missing. Do you know what I mean? It was like, thank you. You know what I mean? It was, you know, touched by genius.
Yeah.
I remember when he put his guitar on Sonnet, one of the tracks on the album, that night, it was just like...
awesome. Sometimes I can write like that, where I pick up a guitar and I've got a melody and a couple of words and the whole thing will come out. Sometimes it's over a series of weeks and weeks and weeks of not just doing it on pieces of paper, doing it in my head. It's like at the moment, I've got 4 or 5 songs in my head, which I've brought down to the acoustic guitar for an hour or two last week, but there's still the backup there now, and I do like to do that for a while, write things in my head. When we first started, after the band split up recording, I was really into like building walls of sound, and I was into like trying to make this, you know, pretty similar to what Brian Wilson was trying to like head for, this almost universal music, which was head music, which was soul music, but it was universal, and it was the blues. It's like this all-encompassing thing. Do you know what I mean? But and in another way, we write obviously all together in a room, jamming. Or, you know, someone will take a lead and then everyone else will follow. It's just, you know, how we've always written, really. which is that's a really exciting way to write as well.
I think that's where we start. We started, the band started from jamming, like without Richard, before Richard started writing songs. That's where we came from when we were 17. That's how we've always played, is just all playing off each other. Then when Richard started writing songs, we were in the perfect situation to add that feel to his songs, which was like, not a lot of people do you know what I mean? To take a band that's that loose and that fluid,
exactly,
to add that to a song that's quite structured is when magic starts happening. I mean, watching that Fleetwood Mac documentary was like a documentary about classic albums. Like Stevie Nicks was saying, like, how lucky am I to be able to give these songs to Lindsey Buckingham, and he just makes them sound fantastic, you know what I mean? And that's our job when Richard writes a song, is to make his songs like step up, you know what I mean? And if we do that, then that's the key, you know.
Definitely. And with me, then, you know, I wouldn't be satisfied with X amount of my songs on a record. There's a massive part of my psyche and my love of music that is completely and utterly immersed in the music we make as a band as well. Do you know what I mean? So it sort of touches on you know, we're trying to touch on every post, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? And like, just basically satisfy ourselves in what we love about music. You know, we do love amazing classic songs, but also we like the avant-garde as well. You know what I mean? And that's what I meant before about why the Verve becoming, you know, one of the biggest bands in the world is important. That's all I've ever really wanted, because I like extreme music, and you know, I think once we've got people listening, we're going to take them on a really mad trip. We're going to take them on an adventure, like all the great bands should. You know, when I lose the hunger, that's the day I never do it again. It's like, you know,
that's what we did.
When John Lennon put his guitar behind his bed for 3 years, totally understandable. He didn't need to make music. He didn't want to, but at one point he did, and he needed to again. And you know, you've got to be careful with the muse. You've got to be careful with it, because you've got to be careful, like I was saying before, about going in a sterile studio environment. You've got to be careful the way you manipulate the magic. You've got to be careful about all sides of it. Do you know what I mean? So you can never tell when it's going to stop. When the Verve make their finest music as a band, they are at the point of not knowing about it. We're not aware of what we're doing, and that's why it's so incredible sometimes to come back and listen back to what we've done. You know, sometimes you feel like that's the first time you've heard it, but you're just hearing it in a different state of mind. You were in that moment then, that the process of doing that moment and creating that moment, and it's only when you come back down and hear it when you realise, wow, that was a moment. And it's difficult to explain, but I think anyone creating, or anyone involved or passionate or whatever for something that they do in life has had that feeling of, you know, total escapism, total just not knowing where you are, what you do, just creating, having it, living.
That's the drug.
That is the drug. Yeah, definitely or not, I don't know.
You're being ambiguous. I think some of his songs are more straightforward than others. Obviously, like a title like "The Drugs Don't Work" is obviously always going to be more significant than "The Rolling People." Do you know what I mean? And I think there's always that with Richard's songs. Some of them people get straight away, and they might not even get the right reasoning behind the song, but they get it on a level. And like, you know, you often see letters written to Richard. Was that song about me? Was that, you know? And they relate to it that powerfully, you know.
It's all, you know, I think it's just all facets of my personality. Do you know what I mean? And what I'm thinking, or what I think about death, or what I think about love, or whatever. It just seems very natural to me. I mean, once you start analysing it, then that's when it becomes unnatural. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes I do think it's mad. I heard The Drugs Don't Work for the first time on the radio, and I thought, I wrote that, The Drugs Don't Work. I wrote that. You know what I mean? What's all that about? And how do people see that? And I'm trying to get things down to a few lines where it would have taken me 4 before. I don't want to waste any more time now, do you know what I mean? And I think it's like similar to people who went through that psychedelic period and then wanted to like, you know what I mean? Say it in less kind of ambiguous terms, and I think life's too short now and I want to say things quickly and get my point across and make everyone understand it, but there to be levels beyond that. And I think I'm really interested in that. I'm really interested in the subliminal kind of, I won't say messages, but only I know, you see, and I'm never going to explain it to people because it may have a different thing on it, but I know my lyrics are heavy. I know they're uplifting, and you know, there's a track called Lucky Man, and the oh my bit, there's a section where it says oh my. I know how good I was feeling when I sang that, and I know how good I wanted it to feel, and I know that it all collided, and just someone singing oh my. I mean, how many people have sung that word? Those words. It's just the way it came out and the way it's sung. So, you know, some words might mean nothing, but it's the way they're sung, it's the way they come out, it's the way they're put across. Well, the Rolling People, to me, the way I've brought it in my head is like a Tarantino film. It's Rolling People is like a Tarantino movie. It is funkadelic, man. Rolling People's Gimme Shelter of the 90s. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's the way I see it. It's like the guitars at the end of Rolling People. I don't think anyone can play the guitar like that in the world. But lyrically, it's like a film, but lyrically, it's like a Tarantino film. It's a drugstore cowboy. It's whatever you want it to be. No, I haven't got a favourite track actually. I think that's an impossible thing to do or say. I think I've got different tracks for different.
Good feedback from this record. Like a lot of people speak to, everyone's got different favourite tracks, which is fantastic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's.
Mine changes every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely.
That's why I'm a fan. I think. You know?
It's like Neon Wilderness on this. It's like I could listen to that over and over again. You know what I mean? But then I could listen to like Lucky Man or Sonnet. But going back from the past, you know, I go right back to Man Called Sun on the first single, Feel, Gravity Grave, and Slide Away, History, Life's an Ocean, This Is Music. I've got loads of favourites, but I don't necessarily mean that I listen to them, because I hardly ever listen to them.
I think like when you start playing live, the song becomes something else again, and you enjoy playing them live, so then you have your live favourites, you know. Sometimes, you know, with some of the earlier records we didn't have the complete knowledge or capability to get the songs we wanted them to, and like playing them live gives them a new lease of life, and they become that live thing to us, you know what I mean? We might talk about a song like, say, Gravity Grave, and to us it'll be how we hear it live, not how we hear it on record.
It'll be an experience you're thinking about, yeah. It's like when we write our set list, we're not just talking about music, we're talking about how you're actually going to feel after playing that tune, where your head's going to be. Is that next one alright for you there? Cause
it's not, should we do this because the crowd would really love to hear our first single. It's like
those sets were there.
We can buzz off, and so we feel good, and we can pull the gig off and be happy with it. You know,
those sets were the hardest gigs I've ever done. Most amazing gigs, but the heat, you know, were all emotion of doing those songs live, like History. Playing that song live and seeing people actually love that song, you know what I mean? Means something to them. Superb.
That was one of the greatest things about this tour. It was probably the first Verve tour where we had a full audience who could sing along to our songs for the first time. They'd had time to like absorb a Northern soul, and that 2 years had passed, and everyone who's coming to the gigs knew every word to every song, and like
you know, a lot of bands, you know, every band that gets to our position as people singing, but when we hear them singing A New Decade, like the radio plays, the sounds we make and everything seems to feel alright. I mean, coming through your lonely mind, and it's like, yes.
That's special. It makes it all worth it.
I mean, we did a gig, after the Dublin gig, we went back to the hotel bar, and I saw this geezer who was, I think he was 46 when he was with his wife, and I saw him looking, and he came up to me, and his kids had got him into the band, and he was just going berserk because he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe the tune. He'd never heard us until Bittersweet Symphony, but he wasn't reading magazines or anything like that. He just heard the track, and somewhere in him, it got him.
Yeah, every time we finish recording, basically, Nick, he can't put his guitar down, so he's always like doodling in between. So we'll go back in the control room and like we go have a cup of tea, and then half an hour later be like, "Where's Nick?" And we'll like put it on, and he'll be like making these symphonies with his guitar. Yeah. So in between all the session, like we've just been recording, we had like 4 DATs full of Nick's doodling sort of thing. So we just gave the DATs to Nick and let him take them home and choose his favourite bits, and that's one of his favourite bits. That's Nick McCabe on his own, in his own world, just playing his guitar.
Yeah, I mean, something that we're definitely going to take further on in the next year.
I mean, Neon Wilderness, a track on the album, that is another one of his guitar bits that we just made a track around, basically found a brilliant bit, put drums on it, put bass on it, Richardson on it, it's finished in a night, you know what I mean?
I think that's what's exciting as well, is like, if I can write a song that catches people's imagination, then the thought that we're going to expand on that whole side of sound and Nick's sound, and people are going to be listening to that kind of music at the end of the day. No matter if they buy a Bittersweet or a Drugs Don't Work, they're going to get the Rolling People, and they're going to get the end of Come On, and it's like, that's going to spin their heads out. But because they're on it at that point and they're beginning to understand it and get into it on a different level, then they're going to accept it. And that's how music gets better and moves on, by changing people's perception of what pop music is, or what rock music is, or how things should be done or shouldn't be done. Success can be a daunting thing, but it can also be an inspiring thing to take it even further.
Because we're so blasé about it all. We're just so like, we've always known from day one where this band's going, like, and now it's finally come. We're still like the same. Still say so. What does it feel like to have your record at number 1 or number 2 or whatever? And it's like, it's just the same, you know what I mean? It is though, isn't it? But it's great and it feels superb, but we're still the same people,
Well, what you got to do is build up a level of communication with the people you're working with, so then you can let them go off and you trust that they have got your mindset. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to the point when you can't be totally involved in it. But I think the idea of control is, I think bands have given away so much of it, and probably forgotten why they needed it in the first place, probably weren't bothered about the way the sleeve looked or the way the video was or what they were putting across on a poster. To us, everything's important. Everything is important, and I don't know what's going to happen when we start losing time, because it was very stressful for me at the very end of the album, like getting together with the sleeve and the video, and everything was all coming at the same time, which it often does in this business. Everything seems to cram itself into 2 weeks and you're doing everything. But to me, like I said, it's just building up a rapport with the people that you've known for. And with the people that do our sleeves, Brian, with us, we've known each other for years and years and years. He's from Wigan, the guy, and the guys who do the video for Drugs Don't Work they're from Wigan as well. And I'm not saying it has to be a Wigan thing. I'm just saying that level of understanding is something that you can't buy. You can't buy that from some big cheese LA director, because
I mean, it's a trust thing as well. I mean, you can't expect someone to just come in and get totally understand what you're on about in an hour interview about how we're going to make a video. Yeah. But you can get to a state where people are working for you, like Brian who's doing the sleeves and the video and the filming. Is you got to trust these people as an extension of your own band, you know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to.
But we had like a computer, we were finishing the album, we had a computer in the lounge area, we were doing the sleeve at the same time, and we had like the video thing being running at one point. It was like a complete madhouse workshop thing that was going on, wasn't it? Which is good. I mean, it's great to get into that because, you know, you got to like, when you see the sleeve and you know that you've been involved in the creating of it and the ideas, it's really satisfying because it's a whole, we're talking about everything here, we're not just talking about the music. You know, you put that much effort into the music, what are you going to put it in you're going to wrap it in, and what are you going to wrap it in?
I think the answer to your question is to make time to make sure that you can have the input. Do you know what I mean? That's basically the only way that we're going to be happy. A lot of our bands of our generation are suffering from the fact that they feel lucky to get signed. I know we did. We felt lucky to be signed in the first place because rock and roll bands weren't getting signed. It was like a big dance boom. So I suppose you just like resign yourself to the way things are done at that time, and then as you get older and learn that you can change things, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be done the way that it's been set out for all the other bands on this label. You can actually get back to it if you want to do it, you know what I mean? It's changing like, you know, 20 years or 15 years of the record business, you know what I mean? But you can do it.
There's something about this time now. There is, you know, it's our generation coming out and creating and doing different things, not just in England, in America, and, you know, there are the odd people coming out. It'll only be an handful, but it'll still, like, there'll be something to be said about the end of this century and the music and the art and the culture that came out of it. Whereas I strongly believe that the vast part of the 80s will be seen as a very barren time in this country anyway for music. Like I said before, with the story of the 46-year-old Belfast guy who came up to us, and he was, you know, I think I've got a pretty good idea of fans and the different degree of what they're actually trying to convey. It sometimes can be a very shallow thing, and sometimes it can be heartfelt. And when music's getting across like that, I think we're winning the battle because that overrides fashion, it overrides marketing, man. I truly believe that the real stuff overrides marketing. I really do. I think it goes through it burns through it. But you know, you do see the difference when MTV start playing your video over and over again. You do see the difference when, you know, we will do in America when it kicks off there. But like I said, but once you start in controlling what you're putting out on these big mediums, then, you know, to me, and it's another exciting side of like the whole thing, isn't it? There is people that I admire who are making music at the moment, but I think predominantly it's governed by the airwaves. They're governed by pretty transparent stuff, you know. Although, you know, looking back over the years, it hasn't been that long since Kurt Cobain was making music. You know what I mean? That was pure. That was pure. Yeah, just did a tune. I just went down one night and sang a song over some beats. Yeah, it was good actually, because I didn't go there prepared. I just heard it in the car, and I did it 3 or 4 times because I wanted to do it like that. Really, I didn't want to write anything. I just wanted to go in there and improvise, and I just went in and improvised it, and that was it. I don't know when it's out. I think it's out this year sometime, I think, but I think it promises to be a good one though, definitely. Something went wrong there, something that...
Well, I mean, it should have been, at the end of the worst we should have had was 50-50. At the end, I think we should have just paid for the sample. in all fairness, I think that would have been fair. We paid for the sample and that was the end of it. 50-50 would have been, I still would have been pissed off, but I reckon I would, 50-50, that's enough to give away, but 100% is absolutely scandalous.
The sad thing about it is that basically we're all drawing from a similar source, and the Stones have drawn an incredible amount. We all know how much they've taken. And I reckon if it was down to them, I don't think it would have been their decision. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it would. But the thing that upset me at first was just spending that much time in it, and it's like, it's got at the bottom of the piece of art, it's got Jaggers, Richard.
The biggest injustice is for Richard, because he wrote. There's a big part of Richard on that record, and he doesn't get any comeback from it. And he wrote every bit of those lyrics, which means so much to so many people who've heard it. And
the hook. If you did a little poll outside on the street on anyone who'd heard the tune and told them to say the hook, it'd either be the string line at the top, which is ours, or the I'm a million different people from one day to the next. You know what I mean? We're gonna get immense rewards as far as freedom and stuff like that's concerned, through largely to what we've done before, but also the impact of Bittersweet Symphony and the way it connected with people, has opened a lot of doors for us. So we can't look at the shit without seeing the grass as well.